All right, welcome back, guys. We are back here today, and today we're going to be talking about secondary build battleships featuring one of the best in the game, the Tier 8 USS Massachusetts. This is a premium ship and is very different from most other US battleships in the fact that it actually has good secondaries. So we're going to be featuring Massachusetts today, but we're talking more just generally about secondary build battleships, how to build them, what their role is in the game right now, if they're really useful, and kind of how they play. So the Massachusetts is, of course, a secondary focused battleship. That means the secondary guns, the ones that automatically fire at other targets, are quite potent, unlike most U.S. battleships. Other lines that see this feature are particularly Germany and France for their battleship lines. The French aren't as common with it because those ships aren't as tanky, so they don't usually make good secondary build platforms, but the guns are more than up to task if you want them to be. So, what do we look for in the secondary build battleship sort of gameplay? Well, you're going to be building a very specific captain for these ships. You're going to be taking basic and advanced firing training to increase the rate of fire of your secondary guns and then to increase their range. Then you're also going to likely want to pick up one of, if not both of, manual fire control for secondary. So you have to physically click the ship you want your secondaries to shoot, otherwise they won't shoot. But the advantage to that is you get a 60% accuracy bonus to your secondary guns, and some ships, such as Massachusetts, will also like to have IFHE to make those guns do more damage. I'm rocking a high point captain on this ship, so I have both manual fire control and IFHE. So the ship is pretty much, this is like the best you can have the ship set up for what it does. Some ships like the Germans probably wouldn't want to take IFHE because I think their HE pin values are different and they don't really need it. But some ships like this would like to have it, so it's just kind of ship by ship. So, talk about gameplay a little bit. So, what do secondary build battleships do? Well, unlike a normal battleship that you'd want to stay at some kind of range on, secondary battleships you want to get close. You want to stay around your magic number, which is your secondary range. Now, at Tier 8, that secondary range can be 11.3 kilometers if you take advanced firing training and the secondary module and the upgrade modules. Um, if you're in a tier 9, I believe you can go to like 11.6 or 7, and then I think some of the tier 10s can get just a hair over 12. I want to say 12.1 is their max. So if you are playing a secondary ship at tier 10, that's what you want to. That's what you're going to be at. So that's kind of your magic number, and you want to have your secondaries engaged as much as you can, but you don't want to be reckless. You don't want to just suicide in for the sake of suiciding and get killed. As you see in this game, we're in a tier 9 game. Not too many tier 9s, but a couple. The other team doesn't have any massive threats to us. Missouri can't overmatch our armor, so we're not super worried about that. Monarch, some HE spam there, some HE spamming cruisers. So some concern, but there's nothing that's particularly horrifying. If this was a tier 10 match, we have to be a little more passive than this. We have to be a little closer to cover. I'm moving towards the ACAT, but I'm not going directly in it, and I'm not going around it. I have a battleship on my right side of my ship, or my starboard side. I have I believe, a King George out there, so he's kind of got that side of the flank. So I'm going to kind of cheat inside towards the middle. And early on, I want to do two things. One, I want to help my Yugumo. And well, really, and the one thing I'm really doing is helping my Yugumo, and that is by putting my secondaries on a Jutland here that's popped up, and by putting myself as close as I can to run off any radar cruisers. So uh, you notice my secondaries didn't open up immediately. There was about a 15-second delays because I didn't have the Jutland targeted yet. So you have to hold control and physically click on the Jutland for your secondaries to engage if you have manual secondaries. And that's what we have on the ship. I highly recommend, if you're going to play a secondary focused battleship, to pick up manual fire control for secondaries because it is very worthwhile. We go to accelerate and we turn away a little bit because we were expecting the Jutland to torp, and he no doubt did. The Jutland Torps are pretty potent and they go pretty good raids. So we want to not be here when those things are coming in. So we're going to go ahead and accelerate away from these torpedoes. We see a Gneisenau at long range. We have a Richelieu coming around the flank. So we're kind of early on. You notice how we're not in the cap. We're not driving straight through it, but we're staying near the cap. And that's kind of the focus right now. I want to try to get a shot on this Richelieu real quick, but he's probably moving too fast to do that. I can't really get I'm not going to have time to get a shot on him. He'll be behind the island. The Richelieu goes like 8 billion miles an hour. And we have to remember Massachusetts has very slow shell velocity of just 706 meters per second, meaning these shells are going to be, in the air a good little while. So we're going to refocus our efforts back on this Gneisenau, but I want to stay around this cap. I got a Gneisenau. There's a Baltimore over here. The Jutland's probably going to try to come back. As we see, the cap is already contested again, meaning the Jutland's back in the cap. And we also have that Richelieu steaming around the flank. So I've got the Duke of York in the other cruiser over there to at least, maybe slow that Richelieu down. But we're going to get a broadside profile here, and I want to try to get a shot on him, but Jutland pops up, and that's a more important threat right now. Killing a battleship that's off in the middle of nowhere, even if he's giving me broadside, it's still more important to focus my secondaries on the Jutland and try to take him out, because he is the biggest threat to me, he's the biggest threat to my Yugumo, and he's the biggest threat to this cap not being capped. So we definitely want to light him up. We get another 2 overpins, and we have 14,000 damage, and a lot of that is on the Jutland. So we're kind of helping our Yugumo, who isn't the best gunboat in the world, and definitely if he had to use his guns in a trade with the Jutland, he would get smoked pretty bad, because the Jutland is much more of a knife fighting destroyer that wants to, get in there and mix it up. But because we're sitting here, he can't just force my Yugumo out of the cap and take it, because I'm sitting here. I'm such a threat to that Jutland with the secondaries that he can't stick around within my secondary range. So we're turning into the cap a little bit, because again, we were expecting some more torpedoes. The Jutland's torpedo reload is not that long. So we turn him, but we're trying to shoot this Richelieu, because he's basically just YOLOing at our enemy, or at our friendly ships back here. So I'm trying to, tank some shell fire. I'm trying to get this Richelieu off my Duke of York's back if I can. I'm trying to see if I can get him over this island. I'm kind of having a hard time seeing over the island. I'm trying to use a little map trick. I'm trying to look above it. I take an educated guess of where those shells might land, but Richelieu's a hard ship to hit when it's going full speed. But I'm going to go ahead and turn away here, because now I'm about to be smoke farmed, and I don't really want that to happen. So now I'm going to try to turn away, and I'm going to try to kind of reorient myself to this cap. I want to turn around. I want to keep my guns on the other side of the ship, because I want to stay on this side, because there's really nobody in the middle, it doesn't seem. The other flank of the team is on the other side of Delta. So these ships over here, the Colorado, Baltimore, Gneisenau, Jutland, and Richelieu, are pretty much what we have to fight. So I want to kind of reorient myself where I'm angled a little bit better. Richelieu is just suiciding Duke of York. I'd like to help him out, but at this point, they're already kind of leaving my range, because my guns don't get the long range that the sister ships, like the Alabama, would, for example. Alabama's the same ship type as this. It just gets better main guns instead of good secondaries. And that's one of the things you'll kind of have to deal with on a secondary focused battleship. So say you're playing a Tirpitz or a Bismarck or a Massachusetts or something like that. One of the things you're going to realize is when the ship gets very good secondaries, usually the main guns suffer, generally in terms of accuracy, range, or both. And this is the case here with the Massachusetts. We only have about an 18-kilometer firing range. I can't really see what's going on anyway behind the island, and I'm just, that guy's on his own. And I look back, and the Jutland has reappeared, and he's shooting my Yugumo again. So once again, we're gonna throw our secondaries on him. We're gonna turn him. We're gonna put our guns on target, and we're gonna get a shot on this guy while we have the chance. You see our secondaries going to work. They do some damage when they hit. We get 3,900 damage from our main guns, just shooting AP at him is what we had loaded. And at this point, this guy is dead. He's got a fire on him, and Yugumo takes him out of the fight. And now we do not have to worry about a destroyer over here anymore, which is really good news for us. And this means now I can recommit to the A cap a little more aggressively than I could before. I noticed how I stayed away from the cap itself and didn't get too close to it, because I knew that Jutland was around, and I couldn't really be caught, too close and eat 4 or 5 torpedoes. And that's a common mistake we see on secondary build battleships or focused battleships. Players get too aggressive too early. Like, I'm in a plenty aggressive spot right here. I'm well within the mid range of gunfighting, where I can land some accurate shells with these guns that maybe won't have the accuracy at the long ranges. My secondaries were on and off a couple times. And but I wasn't so close that I was basically put in a position where I was either just going to get crossfired by Gneisenau in Colorado, or I was just going to eat 5 Jutland torps and die. So this was a pretty good position to take. And now we can kind of commit to this cap a little bit more, because our team still kind of needs it. We're about tied on ships. That Duke of York on my team got rammed by the Richelieu, and they killed each other. The Baltimore or whatever else is on my team back here hasn't been too effective and too close to the fight. So really, it's just me and this Yugumo. We need to get this A cap for our team. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to this fight now. So this is what Massachusetts excels at: putting its nose towards targets, using its big, heavy American AP to deal big chunks of damage, and putting its secondaries on targets. Most of the targets you're going to find you're shooting at against with Massachusetts can't really tank its secondaries very well, especially if you have IFHE on the ship. The guns will pin plenty enough armor to penetrate most of these ships, and you will farm a lot of damage, raw damage numbers from secondaries. A lot of ships that their secondaries focused even are usually more about dealing fire damage, just getting fires to start, because secondary guns are excellent fire starters. They have like a 7 or 8% fire chance, and they fire so fast that you're almost always going to have a good amount of chance to start a fire. But I'm moving slow, and I'm moving up. I'm keeping my nose these guys, and I'm just trying to get myself into range for my secondaries to work on these guys. I don't want to just drive straight at them. And the other thing I don't want to do is I don't want to go into the A cap because I'm the focus of their attention right now. My Yugumo is not being targeted. My cruiser's not being targeted. They're focusing me, which is what I want. We're a battleship. This is what you're supposed to do: is tank smart damage, not just YOLO in and die, but tank damage smartly. Be the focus of the attention when you need to be. But I'm going to go ahead and slam on brakes here because I don't want to go into the A cap. Because if I go into the A cap, if I cross those buoys in front of me, I'm then in the cap, and then all this damage I'm receiving will just reset the cap over and over, and we won't be able to cap. So I'm going to go ahead and slow down and see if I can get, stay within range here of these ships when I actually go into the cap. Support as much as I can without being in there, basically. And you see our secondaries now are raining down on this Colorado. Our main guns are on the fight. I'm angled just where my third gun can shoot, which is probably a greedy angle to take. It's a little greedy, but it's a Colorado. It's not the most accurate ship in the world. And unfortunately, we take a double pin right there. That wasn't a Citadel. It hit our bow, but it was a 16,000 damage hit. Sometimes in this game, AP can double penetrate, where it basically does like double damage. It's kind of this weird thing. It happens. But that's a pretty clear indication of a double pin, because we actually do get the opportunity to heal that damage, which tells us it wasn't a Citadel. So unfortunately, the Colorado gets a huge hit before he leaves, but he's going to turn away because you notice how much damage he took right there. He was getting tore up by our secondaries. 88 hits in that little exchange right there. And now Baltimore has screwed up and drove within our secondary range. So we're just going to switch targets. We're going to angle out a little bit. And again, this is probably too aggressive. I do have a battleship on my left side. I'm giving that Gneisenau broadside. I'm kind of getting away with it because it's a Gneisenau, and I'm kind of calculating the chances of me getting significantly hit by an accurate ship with 6 guns, which is the Gneisenau, or the ability to just deal massive damage to this Baltimore with my secondaries. Because if our secondaries hit that Baltimore, they penetrate and do full damage. Because of IFHE, and that these guns will hit, no matter where they hit that Baltimore, they're going to do damage. And Baltimore can. I don't think our guns can Citadel Baltimore through the nose, but they definitely can do a lot of damage, and he's not going to last very long. He should have turned away and not taken this fight how he took it, but he did, and we can easily take him out of the fight with a couple salvos. Colorado dies, and now we can push in. We're up to 127,000 damage with 6 fires. 137 secondary hits, and now Gneisenau is coming into the fight, so we're going to do that just now. We're going to put our secondaries on him, and we're going to give him a chance to get 8 up. And you see how I influenced this battle a lot, but I didn't really move a whole lot. I stayed pretty much around the A cap. I didn't go anywhere too special, and yet we were able to make a lot of stuff happen here. And this is kind of a really good example of how to play this ship without being too terribly aggressive, but not sitting in the back and sniping with a ship that's not designed for it. If you find yourself in higher tier gameplay, you're going to have to kind of play a little more passive than even I did here. If I was doing what I was doing and there was say a Montana instead of a Gneisenau, or a Kurfürst instead of a Gneisenau, I wouldn't have gotten away with some of the stuff I did, and I likely would have been killed playing the way I did, but I wouldn't have played the way I did. That 10,000 damage salvo to his upper guns. You notice there I aimed at his guns, not his armor belt. Gives me a bit more damage. Now here I turn out because Hipper is on my right side, and I just kind of banked on him not being able to reload in time, and I do get killed, but I knew by now the game was over, so I wasn't too terribly worried about it. I should have stayed bow on, but I was trying to 1, dodge torpedoes, and 2, trying to angle against that Hipper because the Hipper AP could kill us, so I just kind of took a shot that maybe Gneisenau would miss or something. I don't know. But we do have fires burning on him. He doesn't look like he can repair those, so maybe we get one more kill. Maybe not. Um, eh, we're gonna do it. Maybe. Yugumo gonna get the kill? Who knows? Hey, there it is. There's just a flesh wound. So we pick up just a flesh wound and high caliber from this game. We're going to finish with 166,000 damage, 250 secondary hits. I don't have the final post game analysis up, but we do manage. I do remember looking at it. It was 58,000 damage of secondaries, which is pretty good for secondaries. A lot of secondaries typically don't have that kind of raw damage numbers, but the Massachusetts' guns are really good. So we had 15,000 damage in fires. We had 58,000 damage in secondary hits, which was the raw number of damage, not including fires. So all in all, we had about 75,000 damage from our secondaries and about 90 something thousand from our main guns. So you can see we were pretty balanced in our damage efforts there. We did wind up with two sinks. And we pretty much locked the A cap down with just me and the Yugamo. The Duke of York was unfortunately crushed by the Richelieu, and the Baltimore was kind of pretty far back. I mean, he definitely held, but it wasn't like he was, right up here in the thick of things. You're going to see a quick little note here. This is what you don't do against an American ship with AP like that, is give him broadside, because that Baltimore is going to tear that guy up. So anyway, that's kind of what I got for you here. Secondary build battleships are a lot of fun, but they require a high point captain. They're very niche. And if you do not have a very high point captain, you're not going to probably have the best time with these ships. Also, you have to kind of play based off your matchmaking tier. If you are high tier, you can afford to just drive in and go nuts. And if you're low tier, you're going to have to kind of play a little more passive, and you're going to kind of have to wait for the right time and the right opportunity to go in and do some damage. And don't be afraid to, if you're not finding good opportunities, to just kind of stay in the mid range and use your main guns. Don't always feel like if your secondaries aren't firing at something, you're being a waste, because you're not. You just sometimes have to temper your playstyle and expectations based off what the game and matchmaking gives you. So, anyway, guys, that's what I got for you today. Thanks for watching and have a good one.